Welcome back. In the first episode, we talked about why this project exists. The idea that understanding the theory behind training helps us think like trainers instead of just memorizing techniques. And in this episode, we're going to start with something even more fundamental: how horses experience the world. Because before we talk about cues, groundwork, and exercises, we need to go over one important truth. Horses are always communicating. The question is whether or not we know how to read what they're saying. One of the most helpful shifts we can make in horsemanship is changing how we think about behavior. In many situations, people describe a horse as lazy, stubborn, disrespectful, or trying to get away with something. But from a behavioral science perspective, behavior is much simpler than that. Behavior is information. It's the horse responding to their environment from what they've perceived and what they've learned. Every moment, hesitation, ear flick, step forward is part of that communication. Our job as trainers is to not assign personality traits to the horse. Our job is to observe and interpret what that behavior might be telling us. To understand that communication, we also need to look at the horse's evolutionary history. Horses survived as prey animals living in open landscape, and their survival depended on three things: detecting potential threats early, staying connected to the herd, and moving quickly when necessary. Because of that evolutionary background, horses develop some characteristics that strongly influence how they behave and learn in training. For example, horses are extremely sensitive to changes in their environment. Small shifts in body language, tension, and pressure can carry a lot of meaning to them. They also tend to prioritize safety and predictability. When something feels confusing or overwhelming, their natural response is to create distance from it. That's not misbehavior. That's survival biology. Another important concept in training is that learning never turns off. Horses are learning from us every moment that we interact with them. They're learning when we handle them and when we ride them. And they're learning when we aren't aware that teaching is happening. In behavioral science, learning is defined as a relatively permanent change in behavior due to an experience. That means if a horse's behavior changed over time, something in their experience influenced that change. So when we see a behavior that we like or a behavior that we don't like, the question becomes, what experience created that response? That question keeps us curious instead of frustrated. Something I encourage people to practice during training is to ask a simple question. What might the horse be experiencing? What might this look like from the horse's perspective? For example, imagine you're introducing a new object. Maybe it's a tarp, a flag, or a new piece of equipment. From the human's perspective, we know that it's harmless. But from the horse's perspective, it's something unfamiliar appearing in their environment. Their reaction, curiosity, hesitation, concern, is information about how they perceive that situation. If we approach that moment with curiosity instead of urgency, we can begin to understand what helps that horse feel safe enough to learn. One of the reasons horses are fascinating animals to work with is that their communication is very subtle. Before a horse reacts in a big way, they usually show smaller signs first. Things like ear direction, muscle tension, breathing changes, shifting weight, and eye movement. These signals are part of the horse's communication system. And the more we learn to notice them, the more responsive our training can become. Instead of waiting for a large reaction, we can respond earlier and keep the conversation quieter. Here you can watch a horse in a relaxed environment. Notice where the ears move. Notice how the horse shifts weight and changes focus when something in the environment changes. These small adjustments are the horse constantly gathering information and responding to it. Training happens inside this ongoing conversation. Understanding behavior as communication changes how we approach training. Instead of asking, how do I make the horse do this? We start asking, how can I help the horse understand what I'm asking? That shift creates a different training environment. It encourages clarity, timing, and observation, and it helps us work with the horse's natural learning process instead of against them. When we start thinking as behavior as information, it becomes helpful to learn some of the common signals horses use to communicate how they're feeling. No single signal tells the whole story, so we always look at pattern and context, not just one movement. Here are some examples you might observe. Ears forward often indicates curiosity or attention towards something in the environment. Ears pinned backwards can indicate irritation, discomfort, or defensive behavior. Frequent ear flicking. The horse is monitoring multiple things at once, listening and assessing the environment. A head raised high is often associated with alertness or concern. A lowered head and relaxed neck often indicates relaxation and a lowered stress state. A tight muzzle or clenched jaw may signal tension or stress. Nostrils flaring or rapid breathing can indicate heightened arousal or concern. Tail swishing repeatedly, sometimes a response to irritation, discomfort, or frustration. Weight shifting or stepping away often indicates uncertainty or an attempt to create space. Licking and chewing after tension is sometimes associated with a self-soothing release of tension, though it should not be interpreted as automatic submission or understanding. Again, none of these patterns exist in isolation. The key to horsemanship is to observe patterns over time. Another concept when interpreting behavior is remembering that horses prioritize some needs over others. A simple way to think about this is a hierarchy of priorities. The first being safety, food, comfort, and then play. Safety always comes first. If the horse does not feel safe, everything becomes secondary. For example, many people have experienced a horse that refuses to eat while traveling in a trailer. Even though the horse normally loves its feed, that environment may feel uncertain or stressful. In that moment, the horse's nervous system is prioritizing safety over food. This is a helpful reminder during training. If the horse is too worried to eat, engage, or explore, it often means the environment still feels too uncertain. Instead of asking for more performance, we can first try to help that horse return to a state where learning becomes possible. Another important skill when interpreting horse behavior is to avoid something called anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphism simply means assigning humans' thoughts, emotions, and intentions to animals. For example, describing a horse as too spiteful, trying to embarrass the rider, or trying to plot against the handler. Those interpretations may feel intuitive, but they don't actually explain the behavior. Instead, they can actually distract us from what the horse might actually be experiencing. The famous example of this comes from a horse known as Clever Hans. In the early 1900s, this horse appeared to solve math problems by tapping its hoof. For a time, people truly believed this horse could perform arithmetic, but researchers later discovered something fascinating. The horse was not doing math. He was responding to tiny, unconscious cues from humans who were watching him. When the person asking the question subtly changed their posture or facial expression, the horse stopped tapping. The horse was simply reading human body language extremely well. The story of Clever Hans reminds us that animals are often responding to signals in their environment, not the human interpretations we might be placing on their behavior. So when we're watching horses, we can ask ourselves a few simple questions, like, what behaviors am I observing? What might the horse be prioritizing right now, like safety, comfort, or something else? Am I interpreting this through human emotions or observable behavior? These questions help us stay curious and grounded in what the horse is actually communicating.
Okay, so I included this week a couple of videos that have both horses in them, and one is of Clover, my mini pony, playing with Rodeo, my husky, and I think he's playing. There was a moment that his kick got awfully close to Rodeo. I do notice that I anthropomorphize him by saying things like, oh, I think he's having so much fun. And it could be that I'm having a lot of fun when they're playing together. It could be that I think my dog is having fun. It's though they're together a lot when I'm picking the pen, the dogs are often out with me too. They don't play every day. That's something that just happens every now and then. I think the dog always wants to play, and Clover doesn't really always want to play. And he's not always chasing the dog or, yeah, that day though felt like a special day, and I thought he was playing because he was going after the dog, he was doing little prancing, he was throwing bucks, he'd loop around and come by me and then leave again and shoot away, and that felt playful to me. And I showed another moment of his excitement when we were walking to the corner. He's a little bit faster, and I don't know what happened. Egypt got let off. She got unhaltered first, and Clover was so excited he just shot off after her. And he'll come down real fast too. I showed him right after that, like if you squat down, he'll come back to you so you can take off his halter and lead. That's never happened before. I just happened to get that on film, but I thought that showed him excited. And then contrasting, I showed him what I thought was relaxed, because he was laying down and his eyes were closed. Some of the other animals were laying down. When I went in there, some of the others got up. He didn't. He started doing this head bobbing thing that I've never seen before. And I hope he was relaxed then too, with just the eyes closed, and the laying down made me think, oh, he's chilling. And I like that he didn't get up when I came in there.
In this video of Liberty, we see her standing close to her herd friend, Ranger. Their noses are close, but as his nose gets closer to hers, she begins to back hers away, pin her ears. She tosses her head and then lifts on the front end and spins in the opposite direction. She begins to walk away from him, but he follows her, and as he walks closer to her, her ears come back, and then he lays his teeth on her side. He pauses. She continues to walk away. Her ears are forward, her head is low. As he continues to get closer to her, the ears come back again. And it appears that she's either irritated or trying to create space away from Ranger. And as he takes away that space that she's created, she gets a little more irritated or upset and is trying to maintain her distance for whatever reason that is. In this video of Liberty, we see her getting up from having just rolled. She comes up with a lot of exertion. She lifts up on the front end, and then she lifts up on the back end, circles around, and comes down and does another half roll. And then upon getting up from that second roll, the first thing she does is shakes her head. And in watching the video, I could see that her heavy mane was laying across one of her ears. And after she shakes her head, that mane is laying flat. And being that I know she has that sensitivity to her ears, I think that gave her some relief, because then her head is down low and she begins working her tongue in and out of her mouth. And then we see her nostrils flutter, telling me she either did a big exhale or a blow, and keeps the head down low, appearing like she is feeling much better. She probably is itchy from her blanket being on as the day was getting warmer, maybe had a little bit of sweatiness or itchiness, and so the rolling was creating that relief that she was looking for. In this video of Zaina, we see her walking with another horse. She lowers her head, shakes her head, and snow goes flying off. My guess is she had just rolled. She's then facing me with the camera and lifts her head, perks her ears. It appears she's curious as to what I was doing. As the other horse turned to walk in the other direction, she follows and kind of takes lead in the walk. It appears like she wants to stay near to that horse, and then walks a little quicker, and her head is low. It looks to me like they're both very content in what they're doing and enjoying each other's company. Heads down, looking to graze, although there's no grass at this time, there's lots of snow. So I would think that both of these two horses looked very relaxed being with each other. In this video of Zaina, you can see that she's coming towards us with some high energy. She's taking very large strides. She's running rather quickly. She comes into the corner next to me and kind of takes a sharp turn, and then she's rather close to us. And as she passes in front of me, she turns her hind end towards me, and her hind end kind of kicks her back feet in my direction. I kind of saw this as a playful manner, or she was treating us as if we were another horse, or possibly showing off. And then she takes that second loop around, rounds that corner more smoothly that was next to us, and then just takes a couple big leaps in front of us on that second lap, maybe in a more show-off kind of manner. And then as she nears the next corner, there's another mare standing there, and her hind end comes up, those back feet come towards her, and earlier that day she had been trying to get some hay from that horse, and I kind of see that as a, like, you can't get me, and I'm going to kick towards you. She's a slower moving mare, and Zaina knows that, so maybe kind of in a I'm getting you back sort of way. And then she continues on to run and play a little bit further.
In the next episode, we're going to take the next step and look at how learning actually works. We'll introduce 2 key concepts that shape almost every training interaction: operant conditioning and classical conditioning. These are the learning processes that explain how cues, pressure, and rewards influence behavior. Once you understand those systems, many training methods start to make much more sense. For now, the main ideas to take with you is that horses are always communicating. Behavior isn't attitude, behavior is information. And the more curious we become about what that information means, the better we can become at communicating with our horses. Thanks for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you at the next episode.